When people hear my story, they think I'm exaggerating. They assume I must be leaving out details, or that there's no way parents could actually treat one child so differently than the other. But I've lived it, and honestly, writing this out is as much for me as it is for anyone who might stumble across this and feel less alone. Because growing up, I always thought it was just me. I thought I was defective somehow, like maybe I had been born already wrong. My sister, Kelsey, was the golden child from the moment she could breathe. She was younger than me by 3 years, blonde hair, big blue eyes, and this way of smiling that made everyone around her bend over backward to keep her happy. She didn't even have to try. Teachers adored her, neighbors spoiled her, and my parents treated her like she was the second coming of Christ. Meanwhile, I was there. The responsible one. The quiet one. The one who did her homework without being asked and never caused problems. And for that, I was treated like furniture. Useful when needed, but never loved for being myself. The divide started early, but it really hit me when Kelsey was in high school. She barely scraped by, skipped classes, snuck out constantly, and when she turned 18, she enrolled in college only because my parents practically forced her. 2 semesters in, she dropped out. Not because she had a plan or some burning dream, no, she just wanted to party. She moved in with some friends, spent nights drinking and days sleeping, and eventually called my parents crying that life was too hard. And what did they do? They bought her a freaking condo. A condo. She's just exploring life, my mom said when I asked them why. Everyone deserves a chance to find themselves. Meanwhile, I was pulling all-nighters, double majoring, tutoring to help pay for my books, and still graduating at the top of my class. Do you know what they told me? Books don't matter. Nobody will ever love you anyway. Those exact words. I was 22, sitting across from them in the kitchen with my diploma on the table, and my dad said that like it was just a casual truth. Like I could memorize equations and write perfect essays, but love? Connection? Family? That was out of my reach. And I believed them more than I'd like to admit. So when I met Michael, it felt unreal. He saw me. Not the invisible daughter. Not the responsible one. He actually liked my quirks, my awkward laugh, the way I get lost in research rabbit holes. He made me feel like being me was enough. When he proposed, I thought maybe, just maybe, my parents would finally see me differently. Maybe they'd finally be proud. But of course, I was wrong. They told relatives, poor man, doesn't know he's marrying a failure. They actually said that out loud to people I knew. At my own wedding, they sat quietly, barely smiled in photos, acted like it was a chore to be there. Then I found out later that online, on Facebook, they'd posted, so proud of our beautiful daughter's journey. But the photos? Every single one was of my sister. My wedding day. My vows. My moment. And they turned it into another celebration of Kelsey. It's like I was invisible. Like I could be standing right in front of them in a white dress and still not exist. When I got pregnant, I thought, maybe now. Maybe a grandchild would break through whatever wall existed between us. Family likes babies, right? But instead, when I told them, the first words out of my mom's mouth were, "Better pray your baby isn't ugly like you." I laughed because I thought maybe it was a joke. It wasn't. My son was born on a rainy Tuesday morning. Michael cried when he held him, and I felt this surge of love I didn't know was possible. My parents didn't come. They were at a spa trip with Kelsey. Mom texted me the next day, "Don't disturb us. We're celebrating real family." I stared at that text while holding my newborn, my body aching, hormones all over the place, and I just kissed my baby's head and whispered, "We don't need them." And I meant it. In that sterile hospital room, it hit me. My parents had been telling me my whole life that I wasn't enough, and I'd been trying to prove them wrong for decades. But in that moment, I realized I didn't need to. 6 months later, though, I made a choice that flipped everything. I won't lie, it was messy. It was emotional. And it left my parents in tears, begging, "Please, we didn't mean it like that." But before I get to that, I need to explain what led me there. Because the truth is, I didn't wake up one day and decide to cut them off or hurt them back. It was years of small cuts, thousands of moments where I was made to feel worthless, invisible, unlovable. And when you stack that much pain on someone, eventually something cracks, and when mine cracked, I didn't just step away. I took something from them that they never thought they could lose. People sometimes ask me why I didn't just go no contact years ago. Why not cut the cord the first time my parents told me I was worthless, or the first time they made it obvious my sister was their golden child? The truth is, it's not that simple. When it's your own family, you keep hoping. You tell yourself maybe the next milestone will change things. Maybe if I succeed enough, achieve enough, show them I'm worthy enough, they'll finally see me. And honestly, I was conditioned to keep hoping. From childhood, I learned that if I worked hard, kept quiet, didn't rock the boat, I might get a crumb of acknowledgement. Not love, just acknowledgement. A good job muttered under their breath. A nod. And when you grow up starved of affection, you'll accept scraps and call it a feast. So even after the Condo for Kelsey fiasco, even after the diploma moment where they told me no one would ever love me, I still tried. Every holiday, I'd show up. I'd bring gifts. I'd help set the table. Meanwhile, Kelsey would waltz in an hour late with some new boyfriend. No contribution, no effort, and my parents would practically kiss her feet. She's so busy, Mom would say. She's figuring herself out. Michael noticed it right away when he met them. After the first family dinner, he pulled me aside in the car and said, "Why do they talk to you like that?" I shrugged it off, told him I was used to it. He looked at me with this mix of sadness and anger I'll never forget. "Used to it doesn't make it okay," he said. But he never pushed me to cut them off. He knew I had to get there on my own. And then came the pregnancy. At first, Michael wanted to keep it between us until we were ready, but I was so desperate for my parents to finally care about me, I told them right away. I thought maybe a baby would be the equalizer. But that "better pray your baby isn't ugly like you" comment? That gutted me in a way I can't explain. And it wasn't just words. They showed their priorities loud and clear. Kelsey announced some spa retreat right before my due date, and they chose that over their grandchild being born. Mom's text, "Don't disturb us, we're celebrating real family," was the final nail in something inside me. Still, I didn't cut them off then. I told myself maybe once they met the baby, everything would change. But they didn't come. Weeks passed, then months. Not a visit. Not even a card. My son turned 3 months old, then 4, then 5, and they were nowhere. Meanwhile, their Facebook was full of posts about Kelsey's new ventures. Kelsey opening a tiny Etsy shop? They acted like she had built Amazon. Kelsey getting a new haircut? They threw her a self-love party. I was breastfeeding at 3 a.m. scrolling through those posts, rocking my crying baby, and it hit me, I would never be their priority. The breaking point came at 6 months. I had invited them to his half-birthday. Not that it's a big thing, but I thought maybe an informal little get-together would finally draw them out. I sent them an invite. No response. 2 days later, I found out from Kelsey's Instagram that they were on a wine tour in Napa with her. That night, I sat on the couch with Michael after putting the baby to bed. I was quiet for a long time. Finally, I said, "They'll never love me." Saying it out loud hurt, but it was also freeing. Michael wrapped his arm around me and kissed the top of my head. "Then stop giving them the power to hurt you," he whispered. And that's when the seed of my choice began. Because here's the thing, as much as my parents dismissed me, they still expected something from me. They expected the responsible one. The dutiful daughter. The one who showed up at holidays, who called to check in, who remembered birthdays, who babysat for Kelsey when she wanted to reclaim her youth. They depended on me in ways they didn't even realize. I was their safety net, their quiet shadow who kept the family machine running while Kelsey got to shine. But once I had my son, my perspective shifted. For the first time, I wasn't just living for scraps. I had someone who needed me, who loved me unconditionally. My son didn't care if I was invisible to my parents. To him, I was everything. That clarity is what gave me the strength to finally step off the hamster wheel of trying to earn love that was never coming. So I started small. I stopped calling. I didn't text updates. I let holidays pass without a word. At first, they didn't notice. They were too wrapped up in Kelsey's latest boyfriend or her spa trips or whatever new drama she cooked up. But then practical things started hitting. Mom texted me one day, "Can you pick up Dad's prescription? Kelsey's busy." I didn't respond. Another time, "Your uncle's birthday dinner? Are you bringing the cake?" Silence. Slowly, the roles I had played without thanks or recognition started to collapse. And that collapse? That was just the beginning. Because my choice 6 months later wasn't just about stepping back. It was about finally, deliberately putting myself and my son first, and letting my parents feel, for once, the absence of the daughter they'd ignored. And when it all came crashing down, they cried. They begged. They said, please, we didn't mean it like that. But by then, it was far too late. I think what shocked my parents most wasn't that I pulled away. It was that I didn't announce it. I didn't sit them down and give some dramatic speech about how they had hurt me. I just quietly stopped answering their texts, stopped filling in the gaps for family events, stopped being the reliable daughter in the background. At first, I think they assumed I was busy. They were so used to taking me for granted that my silence didn't register as intentional. Mom sent the occasional text short, clipped things like, need you to pick up dry cleaning, thanks, or dinner at grandma's, bring dessert. I didn't respond. Then she escalated to guilt tripping. Why aren't you answering? You know how much we rely on you. Still silence. And here's the part that stung. Even though I knew it would happen, weeks passed before they realized something was really different. Imagine ignoring your daughter her entire life, then being surprised when she finally stops showing up. Michael was my rock during this. He'd sit with me at night while I scrolled through their Facebook posts. Kelsey had launched some new self-care brand, really just bath salts she bought wholesale, and slapped a label on, and my parents were gushing online like she was Martha Stewart. They were writing things like, so proud of our beautiful daughter and her creativity, and I'd be sitting there holding our baby, thinking, did they even notice he's crawling now? Did they even care? The answer was no. They didn't notice. They didn't ask. But then came the turning point. My cousin was getting married, and usually I was the one who helped organize rides for relatives, made sure the family group gift was bought, handled little details no one else wanted to do. This time I didn't. I RSVP'd yes for me, Michael, and the baby, but that was it. I didn't coordinate carpools. I didn't remind anyone of deadlines. I didn't offer to bake or clean or carry the emotional load. The day of the wedding, my parents were frazzled. They showed up late, barely put together. And people noticed. Relatives asked them, wait, didn't my name handle this stuff usually? I saw the flicker in their faces when they realized what my absence meant. I wasn't just their failure daughter. I was the scaffolding that held up their reputation as a functional family. Without me, the cracks were obvious. That night, I danced with Michael and held our son close while relatives came up to coo over him. They told me how cute he was, how much he looked like me, how sweet Michael was as a dad. My parents? They sat stiffly at their table, clearly irritated that the attention wasn't on Kelsey. When Kelsey eventually got drunk and tried to give an impromptu toast about following your dreams, it was incoherent. People were politely smiling, but I could see the embarrassment on my parents' faces. They wanted me to swoop in and fix it. I didn't. That was when they started reaching out in earnest. Not with demands, but with attempts at niceness that felt so fake it almost made me laugh. My dad texted me, your mom made chicken parm, want to come by for dinner? This was the same man who once told me, straight-faced, nobody will ever love you. Now he wanted me to bring my son over so they could play grandparent. I ignored the first few attempts, but then the kicker came. Mom called one afternoon and left a voicemail. Her voice cracked, like she'd been crying. We haven't seen the baby. We don't want to miss his milestones. Please don't shut us out. I played that voicemail for Michael, and he said exactly what I needed to hear. Where were they when he was born? Where were they when you were bleeding and exhausted and alone in that hospital room? They chose a spa trip. They chose Kelsey. Don't let them rewrite history now that it's inconvenient. And he was right. That's when I realized my choice wasn't just about cutting them off. It was about drawing a line in the sand. If they wanted access to me and my son, it wasn't going to be on their terms anymore. So the next time they tried to reach out, I answered. Calmly. Directly. I told them, you don't get to play grandparents now. You missed that chance. I give you so many opportunities to be part of my life. You chose Kelsey every time. You told me nobody would ever love me, and guess what? You were wrong. I have a husband who adores me and a son who lights up when he sees me. We're happy. And we don't need you. There was silence on the other end. Then Mom's voice trembling, we didn't mean it like that. I laughed. Actually laughed. You meant it enough to say it. Repeatedly. For years. That's when she started crying. Begging. Saying things like, please don't punish us. We love you. My dad even got on the line, his voice choked up. We're sorry. We didn't realize. We'll do better. But here's the thing, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt sad. Sad that it took losing me for them to even pretend to care. Sad that they only wanted me once I stopped being useful. And in that moment, I realized exactly what my next step needed to be. Because it wasn't just about ignoring them. It wasn't about letting them stew in regret. It was about taking control of my own story, my son's story, and making sure the cycle ended with me. After that phone call, I expected my parents to back off, lick their wounds, maybe stew in their pride. But they didn't. If anything, they doubled down. It started small. Mom sent a box of baby clothes to the house with a card that read, "For our handsome grandson, love Grandma and Grandpa." The words looked so foreign on paper that I actually laughed. Grandma and Grandpa. They hadn't even visited once, hadn't held him, hadn't changed a single diaper or stayed up during those brutal nights when he screamed for hours. But now, suddenly, they wanted a title. Michael saw the package sitting unopened on the counter and asked, "You gonna keep it?" I shook my head. "I'll donate it." And I did. I wasn't going to let my son wear clothes meant to rewrite a narrative that didn't exist. Then came the social media campaign. My mom started posting old baby pictures of me, captioning them, "Our firstborn, such a blessing. We are so proud of the woman she's become." Proud? Of me? This after decades of calling me ugly, a failure, unlovable? I stared at the screen, sick to my stomach, realizing she wasn't apologizing, she was rebranding. To the outside world, she wanted to look like the doting mother who'd always been supportive. I didn't take the bait. I didn't comment. I didn't like. I just let her spin her little story, because deep down I knew the truth. And so did Michael. And one day, so would my son. But here's where it got messy. Kelsey noticed. See, she had always been the center of attention. The golden child, the favorite, the star of the family narrative. When my parents suddenly shifted their focus, however fake it was toward me, she didn't like it. At all. One evening, I got a string of texts from her. "WTF, are you telling mom and dad about me? Stop trying to make yourself the victim. You've always been jealous. Now you're turning them against me." I didn't even bother answering. I knew exactly what was happening. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the sun we all orbited around. And even though I didn't want my parents' fake affection, the fact that they were scrambling for my forgiveness threatened her position. The next family gathering proved it. It was my aunt's retirement party, and Michael and I debated whether to go. In the end, we decided to show up for my aunt's sake, not my parents'. I dressed my son in a little button-up shirt, strapped him to my chest, and walked into that hall with my head high. The reaction was immediate. Relatives swarmed us. They cooed over the baby, complimented Michael, asked me about work and life. For once, I wasn't the invisible background character. I was front and center, but not because I demanded it, because I had built a life worth noticing. My parents hovered nearby, looking nervous. At one point, my mom tried to reach for the baby, but I shifted him closer to me and smiled politely. "He's a little fussy with new people," I said, and walked away. The look on her face was a mix of shock and desperation. And then Kelsey made her move. She stood up, glass of champagne in hand, and announced to the room that she was launching a wellness retreat center with her friends. It was classic Kelsey, vague, dramatic, all buzzwords and no details. Everyone clapped politely, but the energy was different. People were tired of her empty promises. The contrast between her show and my quiet, steady presence was glaring. Later, my mom cornered me in the hallway. Her eyes were wet. "Please," she whispered, "let us be part of your son's life. We've made mistakes, but we love you." I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You love the idea of me. The image of being parents to a successful daughter. But you never loved me. And I'm not letting you rewrite history at my son's expense." She started sobbing. My dad came over, his face pale, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not anger. Not disappointment. Fear. Fear that they had lost me for good. And here's the kicker. That was when I realized my power. For decades, I had begged for scraps. Now they were begging. And it wasn't because I had suddenly become more lovable or worthy. It was because I had finally stopped giving them everything for nothing. That night, Michael held me close and said, You don't owe them access to our family just because they share DNA. Our son deserves better than conditional love. He was right. And that's when the final part of my choice crystallized in my mind. It wasn't just about pulling away. It wasn't even about letting them feel regret. It was about protecting my son. About breaking the cycle so he never grew up thinking love had to be earned through suffering. So when my parents texted me the next day, begging to come visit, I gave them the clearest boundary yet. I told them, "You are not welcome in our lives until you can acknowledge the truth, not rewrite it, not post about it online, not cry and beg. Acknowledge it. Own what you did. Until then, we are done." Their response? Silence. For a week. Then another flurry of messages, all saying the same thing. "Please, we didn't mean it like that." But I knew better. They meant it exactly like that. And now they were finally realizing that the one thing they had always counted on, my willingness to forgive and forget, was gone. The messages kept coming. Some were desperate, "We'll do anything, just let us see the baby." Others were manipulative, "You're being cruel," punishing us for mistakes every parent makes. And a few were downright nasty, "Don't forget who raised you. You'd be nothing without us." The irony of that last one almost made me laugh. Nothing without them? My entire life had been about clawing my way out of the hole their neglect and cruelty dug for me. Every achievement I had, every ounce of resilience, was in spite of them, not because of them. Michael saw the toll the texts were taking on me. He took my phone one night and said, "Block them." I hesitated. Blocking felt so final, like cutting a cord that could never be tied back together. But then I thought about my son. I pictured him growing up around people who would belittle him the way they had belittled me, people who would use love as currency, giving it to Kelsey and withholding it from him. That image settled my decision. I blocked them. And I can't lie, at first, it felt both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because, even after everything, part of me still craved their approval. Liberating because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting by the phone for scraps. I was free to build my own family, my own story. Of course, cutting them off didn't stop the fallout. Kelsey came at me hard. She showed up at my house one afternoon, uninvited, pounding on the door. Michael told me to stay inside while he answered. She started yelling from the porch, "You're ruining everything. Mom and Dad are miserable because of you. You've always been jealous, and now you're just being vindictive." Michael stayed calm. "You need to leave," he told her. She tried to push past him, but he blocked the door. Eventually, she stormed off, screaming that I'd regret this. That night, after the baby was asleep, I sat in the quiet and thought about her words. Would I regret this? Cutting ties with the family I was born into? The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, but never did? I waited for the guilt to wash over me. It never came. What I felt instead was peace. And slowly, that peace grew. Holidays used to be painful, filled with the dread of walking into a room where I was invisible. That first Thanksgiving without them, Michael and I cooked together in our tiny kitchen. We danced while stirring gravy, laughed when the turkey came out a little dry, and fed mashed potatoes to our son in his high chair. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Christmas, too. Instead of sitting stiffly in my parents' living room while they gushed over Kelsey's latest boyfriend, we decorated our tree, played carols, and watched our baby tear open wrapping paper with wide eyes. Michael held me under the glow of the lights and whispered, "This is real family." And that was when it fully sank in. My parents had spent years trying to convince me I was unlovable, but here I was, loved more deeply than I ever thought possible. Not by them, but by the family I chose and built. The funny part? Word got around. Relatives started noticing my absence. At first, they'd ask my parents where I was, and apparently, Mom spun some story about me being busy with the baby. But eventually, cousins and aunts reached out to me directly. When they heard even a fraction of the truth, some of them were horrified. My aunt, the one whose retirement party we attended, actually called me crying, apologizing for never stepping in. "I didn't realize how bad it was," she said. "If I had, I would have done something." I told her gently that it wasn't her responsibility. But inside, a part of me felt lighter. It wasn't all in my head. Other people could see it, too. Meanwhile, Kelsey's wellness retreat flopped. She posted less and less about it, until finally she pivoted to a new dream, something about real estate. My parents, of course, kept boosting her online, pretending every half-baked idea was genius. But from the outside, the cracks showed. And without me there to hold everything together, the illusion of a perfect family collapsed. Months passed before I heard from them again. A letter showed up in the mail, handwritten, shaky script. It was from my mom. She wrote, "We're sorry. Truly. We didn't mean to hurt you. Please don't punish us forever. We miss you. We miss our grandson. Please give us another chance." I stared at that letter for a long time. The younger me would have run straight back, desperate to believe those words. But the woman holding her son in her lap, she knew better. I tucked the letter into a drawer, not to respond, but as a reminder. A reminder of how far I'd come. Because here's the truth. Sometimes, family isn't worth saving. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop setting yourself on fire to keep people warm. And sometimes, the real victory isn't in making them cry or beg. It's in realizing you don't need their love to live a full, beautiful life. That's why, 6 months after kissing my baby's head in that hospital room and whispering, "We don't need them," I made my choice. I chose peace. I chose Michael. I chose my son. And my parents? They can sit with their tears and their regret. They can tell themselves whatever story helps them sleep at night. But me? I'm done begging for a place at a table where I was never wanted. I built my own table. And everyone who sits at it knows one thing for sure. Here, love isn't conditional.